So it's Friday, the 16th of January. So it's been a while since I've done a uHangout, obviously Christmas, New Year, and all that jazz. So today is an experiment to see, have kind of an open platform to discuss anything kind of Umbraco related. So today, currently I've just got Lee, but it's if you want to join in, there's a link I've just tweeted out. So if you want to join in the discussion and have anything you want to discuss, then jump on and then let's have a chat. But first of all, how's you, Lee?
Hey, Warren. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Very good.
Good.
Yes, I seem to have recovered from my spout of flu over Christmas, so I'm back and full strength. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say there's been some nasty bugs going around, isn't there?
Yeah, it seems to have just wiped a lot of people out. But yeah, I don't know. Just change of weather in the UK, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose first couple of weeks back to work, and what's on the cards for Lee and the Umbrella gang?
So so we're still. I mean, for anyone who was at Code Garden, I did a presentation about how we were at Umbrella working with Carlsberg on quite a few of their brands. So we're still working with Carlsberg, working on one of the main projects for Carlsberg.com. So we're just working with that at the moment. It's in. It's not 7.2 yet. I really want to get up to that, but it's 7.19 or something, whatever.
Okay.
Closest to it. But yeah, using Umbraco as a service, which is all going well. So yeah, it's ticking along. It's good. It's good.
No, that's good, man. That's good.
But yeah, I'm really eager to get working with the grid as well in 7.2. So I've not had time to play with that yet.
Okay, so yeah, like obviously just before we started, I was saying that obviously when Code Garden you demoed Carlsberg, and obviously you had your own kind of grid implementation. So what's kind of what's different from, I suppose, your implementation and kind of the official grid implementation in 7.2?
Yeah, when we started working on our one, which is we called it mortar, like clicks and mortar, that sort of thing. Right. We started building it a year ago, so the grid wasn't even sort of out there yet.
Yep.
And it does quite similar things in terms of you can build different kind of page layouts, have different sort of modules, widgets, and just include different bits of content. So you can build up different page layouts that would fit into a grid system. So it has a lot of similarities with the grid, but since the grid's come out and had only a brief play with it, it's a lot more slick than what we did. Nicer user interface. So I'm quite eager to move some of the concepts we've done with R1 Mortar over to the grid and kind of consolidate everything and make everything better.
Nice. So is there anything that maybe your implementation on Mortar that you've done that maybe could benefit the grid implementation? So is there anything that you could think that you...
Yeah, there's one core concept that we've used, which is if you want to have extra functionality with the grid, you'd use macros. So you can do whatever you want with macros. But you kind of, with the parameters that you can add in for a macro, you're kind of limited to just using macro parameters. So they can't be configured and things like that. So for our implementation, we ended up using doc types. So you would say, instead of having a macro, so if you sort of think of a macro just as a doc type, so in your doc type you have properties, you can assign it a template, and then that's the template that would get used. So in our page builder, you would you pick a doc type instead of a macro, and then you'd have all your fields that you wanted to populate, which is just a doc type. So anything you configured in your data types is there. And then on the front end, it would just we'd have some code, but it would just render the template for that doc type.
Okay. Cool.
So it kind of it works all right, and also we get the benefit of having a controller as well. So the doc types are all the controllers are all on like a naming convention. So as long as you've got a Surface controller that has the same doc
matches,
yeah, it's all convention.
So you can do a little bit more funky stuff.
Yeah, I think that was the key thing I was missing with macros. I know that it was on the cards at some point to have something called like child action macros.
Child action macros. Yeah, I think I've seen that on the kind of the GitHub, not the GitHub, the issue tracker or something.
I don't want to say it, but this was a V5 concept where they would have a macro and you'd define two things on the macro. Did you with macros? Did Did you ever try to use the server-side user control macros? So there's some
user
options.
controls. No.
So if you ever go to the macro settings, you will
Yep.
see there's two options. There's one for an assembly. So you give it, a name of an assembly, and then you give it the namespace of a user control, and it would then just render that macro as a server-side user control, which was quite clever. But not many people used it because
I was going to say that was back in the day, really. So yeah, user controls and.
So it's the same concept as that, where you would say.
So what would you set then? What would you set?
So let's just say you're in MVC and you were in a partial or a view, and you were going to use a child action. So you'd say, like, in your partial, you would say HTML.action, and then you give it a action and a controller. So for your I think in V5, if I remember correctly, for your macro, you would say, here's my controller, and here's the action I want to call. So then the macro would just render that action, and then whatever logic you have inside that action would just be rendered out.
Right, I'm going to play dumb here. So what's the difference between then just not using just a cached partial then? Because obviously Mac in 7 and 6 recently, I'm kind of leaning away from using macros just because you can do pretty much the same thing with cached partials and things like that.
Yeah, with V7, I've done exactly the same. So I previously with V4, V6, I was the XLT guy. Everything was in XLT.
Yeah, there's a delivery of the record.
So I was the XLT guy. I was always using macros for everything. And then since moving to V7, kind of XLT, I don't want to open up a holy war, but it's kind of taken a second-class citizen role. So I would be using MVC partials for everything. So I wouldn't really touch macros at all. But since the grid's come out, I think it's reintroduced this kind of thing where we can use macros again.
Yeah,
for now.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because obviously the early concepts of when I was using macros was that maybe I would inject it into a rich text editor, and for, I don't know, I can't remember what example off the top of my head. But obviously you would want similar, say, things like you say in the grid. In this section on the grid on the left column, it needs to be whatever. It needs to be some funky little macro that needs some parameters and things like that. So yeah, I can see it definitely being introduced again.
Yeah, I think in time, maybe V8, V9, I don't know. Whenever Shannon codes it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. busy guys. Okay, so is there? So obviously you're a long time Umbraco user. So is there anything that you've kind of missing in terms of like? Yeah. Like what things like bug you day to day, like in terms of like.
I think with V7, there's obviously a bigger kind of push towards a better, nicer user experience for content editors, which is fantastic. And then one of the things that we talked about, because I was obviously fortunate enough to go on the retreats this year before Code Garden, and one of the things we talked about was, what can we do to make this, the editor experience a bit better. One thing I worked on during the retreat, which I got to finish just before Christmas, which is going to be in 7.3, is to have like a restore button on the recycle bin, so you can have items within like the recycle bin where you could say, this has been deleted, I want to restore it back to its original place. It's just a kind of a glorified kind of move, so it's moving.
Yeah, but that's really nice in terms of just like a little usability thing in terms that if it's ever was deleted. So if I remember, you'd have to say, if I want it restored, I have to move it, wasn't it, or something like that? You'd have to manually say, look, I want it now under this specific item. Yeah.
So you may not remember exactly
where it was.
Yeah. Especially if you have like a long nested content structure. So what we're using internally within the core is we're finally making use of more relations. So there's only one relation that gets like created, by default, which is called copy on relate. So now we introduce a new relation which says, when you delete this, just remember the parent ID. So delete a node, and it will remember where it came from. Even that if you deleted a child node and then you deleted a parent, it and tried to restore the child, it would restore it under the parent, which is deleted. It's the way that it would work. Anyway,
Okay.
but yeah, so it works quite well. It's good. So yeah, I guess one of my kind of like gripes was I'd like more sort of polish around some of the content editor tasks and things. Like one other example would be it'd be good in the core to have something that shows you all your latest content edits, not just from yourself. There already is a dashboard like that one on the content section.
So what, this is what I've recently updated.
Yeah, because I know that there is a package out there. I think it's just called latest content edits or something. I don't know, but I think it's Christian. What's his surname? Zimmermeister? Can never pronounce it.
No, I can never pronounce it.
Great State. So he did a dashboard that showed you a lot of more of a richer example of what a content editor has used, or edited or done in the last. I think it also shows you some media that they've updated recently. So I don't know. My thinking was that you could try to make the content experience a bit more richer for the editors.
Okay.
Which I think will come over time.
That's very, very nice.
Yeah.
I was going to say, bugbears for me is probably something similar in terms of making sure that we deliver the best possible for our end clients, the best user experience as possible.
Yeah, because I know another area for me was things like the audit trail and rollbacks haven't been touched in quite a long time.
Yeah, years and years, I'd say.
So like as a developer, I'm using GitHub, and I
exactly.
see, and
we don't really care, do we?
No, but what I see on GitHub is like the audit trail that you have and the audit trail that you see. It's like that's so nice. You can see.
The file comparison on GitHub.
Yeah, things like the file comparison. So there is that in the core for doing rollbacks and so if someone was wanted to roll back from one piece of content to another, I think that could be again a lot richer. So yeah, there was just little bugbears like that, but in time it will all come out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to think what else.
What have you been up to, Warren? Because I know that you've done something with like I've not looked into it, but was it called JWT authentication?
Yeah, JWT is known as JSON Web Tokens, or formerly known as JOTs. So it's a way to do authorization with tokens. So it's to do with a nice kind of semi-standard for doing authorization. So for example, let's take Stefan's model builder.
Yeah.
At the minute, it uses plain text authentication. So you send your username and password every time. It would be nice that you send a token, and then with that token you can verify and just send the request once. But kind of the sample of what's coming in the pipeline is that I'm attempting to make an iPhone application that talks directly to Umbraco installations, and the ways that needs to happen is authentication. So I need to authenticate as an Umbraco back office user, and for me to do that from not on the same domain and from a mobile device, I need to do it in a way that allows me to kind of send a token back and forth. So what it does is you log in once, you get a token back which is encoded with a secret, and in there is a piece of JSON. Once it's decoded, you can maybe store, I don't know, a user ID, some other identifiable information, obviously not anything too sensitive in terms of passwords or anything like that, but you decode it at the other end. So at the iPhone end, for example, you can then use that information to get around cross-domain problems that normally happen. So obviously when we do authentication in kind of .NET world, we either have a session or a cookie, And if I'm on another domain or another device, then obviously getting that cookie to talk to one another nicely is a real pain in the arse. So there's there's this idea of these JOTs or JSON Web Tokens. So it's something I'm playing around with. It's just kind of spun off because I'm attempting this kind of little pet project with this iPhone thing, and I'll try and kind of detail as much steps as I go along. Really.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. It's just something I've not needed to look at yet.
Yeah,
so it sounds quite useful.
Again, it's real kind of maybe niche. Just securing, I suppose, any kind of web API at your Umbraco end. So if you need, I don't know, you're building an API on your Umbraco site, and you need the Umbraco back office user to be authenticated to get, I don't know, a certain section of the content tree, and you want to do an API that allows you to post data, say, I don't know, create a new node or update a new node or whatever, and you need the context of the Umbraco user. So when you do using the service or the content service, you have the correct user and not just like a generic user that is going to be for the API. So that when you look at the audit trail and things like that, you've got John and Bob and Tom or whatever using the API, and you've got a decent audit trail back, and you know who's been doing what and things like that. So that's it really. But yeah, so that's what I've been kind of playing around with, and yeah, it's something that was the Angular JavaScript conference. There was a talk about this JSON Web Token, so it's from that managed to watch a video and kind of it's a good idea, and see if create a small app or something and see how it goes.
Cool, that sounds really good.
Yeah. So as always, it's in spare time now. With the little one has recently arrived. Spare time is non-existent.
Yeah, how's fatherhood?
Good, thank you. Good. Yeah, it's cool. Tiring, but it's worth all the effort.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah. I'd like to say it gets easier.
Does it not?
But it's still fun. It's still a lot of fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So obviously with obviously Carlsberg and things like that, is there anything that you can spin out from the project? Oh, we've got someone else joined.
We have a guest.
Oh, hello, Bob.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, Bob.
How you doing?
Good.
How's things in the States?
Things are cold here in the States.
I was going to say, you look nice and kind of wrapped up and snug there.
Is the word?
Oh. So what have you been up to, Bob, recently? Anything interesting that you've been working on?
Wait, I'm actually on a huge delay here. That is interesting.
Yeah, we're going out via the satellite phone and back to you, Bob.
Oh, so wait, no. Maybe if I just close the other window, I think I'm good.
Can you hear us, Bob?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes,
Cool.
awesome. Right.
Okay.
What I was asking you was what you've been up to recently. Anything interesting in the world of Umbraco?
Well, actually, I've been working on a lot of everything archetype.
Archetype? Yeah, I saw your tweet. I saw your tweet the other day. Like, I'm the Oprah or Oprah of the Umbraco world.
Yes, an archetype.
You want an archetype? Yeah, archetype for you?
An archetype, yes. So most of my site deployments are not up to 7.2 yet, so no grid. And
okay.
We started using archetype maybe, I don't know, 4 to 6 months ago, and so everything we build is kind of like adding a new archetype. So they don't get the visual on the back end, but they get the multiple content types, and it renders out pretty nicely. So
okay.
The editors seem to like it.
If the editor's happy, then client's happy, then that's all that matters.
Yeah. It's still easy to jump in for us to, because you know how it goes. You deploy a site, and they're supposed to manage the content, but somehow they always come back to you for the simple little things.
Yeah. True. Can you just do this? Can you just like make this bold?
Yeah, exactly.
You know you have a CMS, right?
Yeah. We'd like to add a page. Could you add a page for us?
Yeah, I certainly can.
Remember that triple click thing that I just showed you? The 3 buttons where it says create? Yeah, that's the one. Oh, I don't have time to do that. Can you jump in and do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just finished it while we were on the call. How's it look?
Good stuff. So apart from archetype, or however it's pronounced these days, anything that's kind of else that's interesting you in the world of Umbraco, Bob?
Interest is pretty much daily. I mean, I love to see the evolution that's going on. You know, I play with the new versions on the side because the client world's not ready for some of that in our realm. They're pretty conservative, but we keep it pretty far off the bleeding edge. But yeah, I mean, I just love watching the daily progress and the things that change. I mean, it's really, I mean, since this jump to 7, just gone in this amazing direction, and it's been kind of cool. I haven't delved into the Angular stuff yet, but since V7, I've probably worked in Visual Studio infinitely more than I ever have before, and I'm actually, you know,
is that a good thing, Bob, for you, or?
I would say 5 years ago I would have said no. It's the scariest, most deadly thing. Awful. Now that I'm, you know, in my mid-40s, I'm actually maturing into a more of a hacky developer than I've ever been in my entire life. So
Good. That's what I like to hear.
I've actually made compiled code. It's crazy.
Awesome. So I was just asking Lee a moment ago, Bob, that what's kind of the pet peeves for you in Umbraco at the minute? Is there anything that kind of day to day that kind of bugs you and just think, oh, I just wish this was simpler or easier, or is there anything? Because Lee what was you saying, Lee? Something along the lines of
Yeah, I think just to do with some of the things that haven't been touched in such a long time, like the audit trail for content or content rollback. Just some of the standard CMS things that, you know, we kind of just accepted, you know, that doesn't need anything because it's worked for years, but it could do with some polish and maybe make it a bit nicer.
That's
modern.
Definitely on the list. Probably a little bit lower level. Biggest pet peeve for me now is list view.
List view. What's up with list view then?
I think it maybe just came out too quick and wasn't thought through, because I mean, obviously, like I said, we're not a 7.2 shop.
Yep.
So if you want to present items in a list view for non-7.2s, actually, and I think this is still debatable because I think it's still glitchy in 7.2, you know, as soon as you put in a list view, it can't be picked with a content picker.
Right. Yes.
I think that is still. Yeah.
Is that still the case, Lee? Do you know?
I think so. I'm not on 7.2 yet, but it was definitely like that in 7.19 or whatever the last version before was.
And when I came to Umbraco, one of the things that I loved about it is that the Umbraco interface, the Umbraco mechanism, never had any implication of how you should organize your content. It was totally up to you to organize it in the tree, and you know, if you wanted to do custom add-ons, like let's say alpha folders or date folders, you know, you'd just write a relatively simple, you know, piece of code that would handle some of that stuff. But with list view, you know, and then the kind of the corporate line or the community line to move away from date folders, if you can't specify the custom property of publish date or news date to sort by in the list view, it really kind of starts to reek of Drupal instead of Umbraco.
I mean, that's a bold claim, Bob.
It is a bold claim, but I've been working in Drupal a lot lately, and I hate it. And when I see list view that can't be sorted by a custom property, that gets me a little frustrated.
It can now. I think this might be 7.2.
Yes, I think that is a recent addition.
Yeah, so you can add whatever other custom properties you want to the list view columns and sort by those and search by those. So I think that's 7.2. I think.
Yeah, I've yet to use 7.2 in vain. So yeah, but like I said, yeah, I think Lee's bang on the money that you can add custom fields or columns. Yeah. So, which is cool. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure if they managed to kind of fix the problem or if they've found a solution to anything that's under the list view that can be picked elsewhere, like you say, Bob, in kind of content pickers or what else.
I think isn't this where search comes in? Because I'm sure that search is like meant to get around that, but you would then need to know what the name is.
So if I was using a content picker of something that was in a list view, I just search for it in the kind of the slide out on the right. So if I know the name of the node or something, it'll appear, and then I can select it.
Yeah, I believe
Well, that's not a very well published workaround then. That's interesting because I didn't know that was possible.
I think.
Have you tried that, Lee?
Yeah, I have tried. I have tried the search, not in a content picker, but I've tried it just like in the main tree. And if you in the main content tree, if you start searching, it will list child items for list views. I think Doug's gonna come in and hey Doug.
Hey, hello Doug.
How you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
Good morning.
Yeah, afternoon, pal.
On this side of the pond, it's morning.
Yeah.
So
hey, I heard the pet peeve. I'm just going to barge in.
Yeah, jump in.
About list view not being selectable, and that's fixed. So
it's fixed, is it?
Yeah, we're just not a 7.2 shop. That's the only downside.
Why not?
Because we're conservative by nature. So.
You're at 7.1.
We are at 7.1 actually. Yeah.
Then do the upgrade.
Okay.
Backups, of course.
Yes, backups.
You've been told, Bobs.
Yeah, history's been made.
So, Doug, what is your pet peeve? You must have again.
Oh, I got a long list actually.
Okay. We've only got a certain amount of time.
Yeah. A lot of my pet peeves are actually issues in the bug tracker. How about you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's an example?
You can pretty much look at anything that I've reported. They're all like pet peeves. Let's see. One that I haven't reported.
I'm trying to do a search now
because it hasn't been really sorted out. There's still a discussion on the ancient discussion on the developer list about user groups. That you were talking, Lee, about sort of old stuff that hasn't really been touched.
Yeah.
And the users is old and hasn't really been touched. And having user groups and being able to say you're part of that group, just like we have with members, would be awesome. That's a distinction different than just a kind of user, but to be able to to bulk set properties according to a user group would be fantastic. Because then you could belong to a couple of different groups. So I can edit news and I can edit FAQs, even though they're in completely different sections of the site, with different start nodes and all the rest. But so that one would be great. And then a little more practically, the document type editor needs some love. So it's a great tool. I mean, if we didn't have it, it would be awful. But so it's good, but it could be better. It could be a lot better. So simple things like if I'm making a bunch of document types, sort of at the beginning of a project, and I say, oh, I really need that property that I made on one of them to come across to two others. I'd like to be able to just grab the property because you have the screen in two halves. So all the properties are listed, and then you see all the document types. Grab the property and drag it onto the new document type, and it just goes with the description and all the other stuff. Because not always do I need to do compositions or master child. I just want to grab stuff.
Yeah. Okay. No. That's like you say. The document type editor. It's probably been like that since nearly early inception of Umbraco. So it's due for some love. We're coming up to 10 years, and it could do with a bit of polish and some UX.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah. And I think having that sort of granularity, as you mentioned, Doug, of been able to just cherry pick properties is brilliant, because the compositions, which are great, you need a bit of foresight on. I need to create this, a composition for metadata where I have these fields. Sometimes I don't think that far ahead. They're just like I'm creating a new doc type. It's like I just need those properties.
You don't think ahead.
I'm a lazy developer.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but I really like that idea.
Yeah.
I think
so,
Bob's frozen.
Bob, are you there? Oh no. Oh, what a shame. So I've just managed to kind of filter your list on the issue tracker, Doug. So you've been a busy bee and reporting quite a few bugs, over 150 bugs. So let's take something recently. So yeah, so what out of this kind of list of stuff, what is kind of the one or two things that you would like to see really get fixed? If you could say.
They're all good stuff. Some of them are just like little UI polish things. Some are, like the document types. Dragging properties would be a lot more intensive to be able to make that work.
Yeah.
And in the bigger picture, of course, redoing document types, that whole editor experience would be awesome. But is there stuff that can be done to ease some of the pain points early? Would be great. But yeah, most of the stuff I report are just like little usability things, things that when you're using the system, they're irritations. So it's not like the big things. They're pet peeves.
No, yeah, exactly. Pet peeves. Yeah. So is it more from you developing the site, Doug, or is it more that you're thinking from the content editor experience that if I was the content editor, this is really going to get on my nerves. If I have to do this 10 times a day or whatever, I'm by the 10th time I'm going to get really frustrated.
Yeah, no, mostly from people who build sites. So one of the nice things about being a trainer is, I meet a lot of people who haven't really used it at all. And, we've all used Umbraco for ages. And that means we don't see it anymore.
Exactly, we're just used to it. We know the quirks, the weirdness.
I know where to click. My hand just goes there. It all happens. Yeah. So when you have, new people, they ask the most audacious questions like, why does it do that?
Because it just does.
Yeah, and then you think, that's a really good question. And so that is often the point of my bug reports. I was
going to say, you must get, like you say, you must get quite a lot of feedback from doing the courses in terms of, like you say. Awesome.
Yeah. So and oftentimes it's the kind of thing that would make a big difference. We'd all appreciate it. It's not just the new person. It's just that the new eyes will see it.
Yeah.
And I was going to say the old eyes, the experienced eyes will no longer see it. It's like ads on Google search results. Do they still do that? Because I never see them.
Yeah. That's a very good question.
That is a good question. So, what have you been up to recently, Doug? So, is the courses coming with grid teaching soon? Is that getting updated?
Yes, I'm actually working on the documentation right now. I'm doing the grid exercise actually.
Wow.
So that'll be fun. We'll have all the 7.2 goodness. Well, if anybody's brave, I think some people are getting a training maybe in Copenhagen next week. They might be able to look for typos on.
Okay, so is this the alpha or beta version of 7.2?
Yeah, well, hopefully better than an alpha. It does actually work, but I started a sentence and then forgotten to finish it somewhere. It sometimes happens. That sort of thing, but maybe not as clear as I could be on some steps, but yeah, so that's exciting stuff. I just did. I just updated my own website. Actually, I didn't do it. I hired somebody to do it.
What?
Yeah. Well, you know how it is, right? Yeah. Like, so the site that I had been running, it's confession time. Oprah. This is that moment. The cobbler's kids have no shoes, and so because I teach people how to build websites, and I am frankly quite good at it, my own site was rubbish. It was running until a couple of weeks ago, version 3.
Nice.
Oh, ancient.
Because I built it so badly that it was unupgradable. It was just a horror show. And I kept thinking, and I started working on the new version many times.
Haven't we all?
And it just, I could never really sort of finish it. And being not only your own client, but your own everything, I could never get to completion. And I've sometimes lamented this, at the pub with students and you guys, and we sort of joke, well, what I should do is I'll build your website if you build mine. Because then we would actually do an awesome job for each other.
We'd actually finish.
Yeah, and it would be done. And so in these kinds of conversations, people would nod and say, that's a great idea. But no one actually said, yes, I'll do yours if you do. It never came to that point.
Brilliant idea. Let me know who you pick.
Yeah. So I finally decided, I just need to pay somebody and take care of it. So I hired Matt Brailsford, and
nice selection.
As expected, he did an awesome job. I'm now using T-commerce for the purchasing stuff. Matt did a beautiful job with that, and I've got a designer working on a new design that we'll lay in the next couple of weeks. But it all came to a head actually because of some legal reasons with the UK and the EU and the Moss VAT stuff.
Yeah, I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, and so I got it solved just in time.
You got it solved.
Yeah, the site went live 2 days before it absolutely by law had to, so that was good. What a pig's breakfast that whole thing is. But
I know.
So you pretty much kept the same layout, Doug?
Oh, it looks identical, yeah.
Okay.
There's a new design in works that'll be, shall we say, a little less vintage.
I like the cart integration or the e-commerce integration. That's nice.
Classic, Doug. That's the classic.
Classic. Yeah. You guys are kind.
I still have classic website.
Yeah.
I think
so,
I currently have Articulate basic template going for mine.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So what would we all like to see maybe happen so obviously Umbraco is coming up to 10 years old. So what would we like to see happen in the next, say, let's do short term first. Let's take a year from now. What would we like to see from a year from now? The Umbraco platform going. Anyone want to jump in? Don't all shout at once.
Where to start? Yeah, I'm trying to recall back to the roadmap that Niels had at the UK Fest.
Yep.
And I'm sure it mentioned other things that would be kind of expected from a CMS platform or a web CMS platform these days, like the JSON API. But it's all developer-driven stuff, So personally, I'd like to see all of Doug's list, polished. I've opened it up, and it's a lot of sort of, as Doug says, small things that just make the world a difference.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to see it go back to kind of the V4 mentality of, kind of taking tiny littler steps and kind of like really getting it to that rock solid V4 stage again, and maybe not worry about taking another large leap for quite some time. I mean, I really enjoyed the V4 days. You kind of knew what you were getting, and it was just rock, it just not so much on the guessing and the unpredictability. So I'd like to see that stabilization phase happen again in the next year.
Yeah. And yourself, Doug? Anything?
I'm lousy at coming up with future visions of things. I'm much more you tell me where you want to go and I'll get you there. So I'm just awful at these kinds of questions.
Yeah, no problem. So that was short term. Let's say midterm. Let's say 5 years from now. So another 5 years from now, what are we all going to be doing, first of all? And are we still going to be building websites?
We'll all be using Umbraco as a service. And
yeah. I'll move my office to the downstairs because I'll be too old to keep coming up the stairs.
I was going to say I'll be in my 50s at that point. That's not cool.
Yeah, Warren's going to have 2 more children.
Oh, yeah. Gone grayer. Yeah.
True.
But yeah, no, I'd say for me, 5 years time, it'd be interesting to see. I think in general where the web is going to go. I think obviously we'll see all these devices and things like that, and obviously the horrible term which I don't like, the Internet of Things. Obviously our fridges and all these other weird devices talking to one another. It'd be interesting to see kind of where we go from 5 years from now.
I wrote just a short blog post that probably about, well, it was over a year ago, but it was one of the things where I made some like crazy predictions, and I was talking about Node.js and stuff, but again, all developer stuff. But one of the ones that I got quite interested in was that they got like a fancy term, the bifurcation, which means the separation of things, right? So now we have Umbraco, but if we say the Umbraco back office is a great content editor experience. Everyone loves it. Everyone wants to use it. It's flexible, does whatever. But then on the front end, we've got ASP.NET, and there's a whole raft of developers that we're kind of we're closing, we're shutting out. We're saying only .NET developers can build front end for this. It wasn't always the way. We could use XLT, whatever. But are we locking out developers? Is there a way to separate back end from front end? And you can build this in PHP, or you can keep the Umbraco back office. That could be a concept that comes up at some point, if anyone was interested in that. Umbraco would still come with its front end, but the back end would be detachable.
I think that's quite a nice idea. Yeah, I think that's a nice idea and could be achievable. Obviously, the back office or the core of Umbraco is kind of heavily API driven already. So maybe, like you say, 5 years from now or whatever, you could decouple the front end platform or rendering engine of your choice, and if you want to write in some obscure language, either PHP or some other fancy Node.js language or whatever's out, or all the hipster kids are using those days.
I predict in 5 years, Lee's going to come out with a new package called uThinkIt, and it's going to have a helmet component, and then when you just think it, then it's going to build the website on the fly for you.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
We could make a movement one. Didn't someone try this? Was it Microsoft Connect? Where you can move your hands and make it publish things. I think so.
Yeah, you're going way past gestures. You're just doing thought command. 5 years.
Make it pink.
We can get Matt Brailsford to build it with robots and things. It would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure we could.
The ultimate collaboration. uThinkIt.
There we go. We've already coined it. So obviously we talked about future and we talked about pet peeves. Is there anything else that we would like to chat about in terms of what we would want to see or bugging us, or I'm just trying to think.
Right now it's the guy in your office that I can hear.
Okay, sorry. I'll turn my mic down.
Lauren, I have noticed that some people have asked some questions in the Q&A part. I don't know if...
okay, so let me take a look. Well spotted, Lee. Okay, so this one is probably a bit specific, but Robert Foster asks, I'd like to have a chat about the Australian Umbraco meetup, especially around finding presenters topics. I presume, that must be quite hard, obviously, with a country as big as Australia. And distance is obviously a key factor. How do you find meetups in the US, Bob, in terms of obviously location and things like that is a big factor. There's a lot of space between you guys.
I think New York is finally starting to see some success in one of their meetups. They have it fairly regularly. I'd still say I haven't really touched base with the guys on the West Coast to find out how it's going in the Northwest for them. They seem to have another concentrated group. For me in the Midwest, it's just too big of an area. We're not having rapid success at all with those meetups.
Okay.
I've been finding more success going to user groups that aren't Umbraco focused and kind of opening their eyes to another platform. And good responses too. I mean, not switching any users, but they're always very interested, but not so much on the meetup scene in the Midwest. It's challenging.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, like, distance in terms of must be a big thing. So have you kind of guys thought about virtual kind of meetups, so to speak, be it a Google Hangout or a Skype call or something similar in terms of trying to, maybe that could help you guys?
They've been attempted. I'd still say that we're relatively the young kids on the block in regards to getting on the community bandwagon. So, you know, I kind of, not that I was there, just kind of wonder how the early days of, you know, the London meetups went, or the Manchester meetups. You know, that they're so robust now, but I think that in the early days they probably felt that same little bit of a struggle as well.
Okay. This sounds like a specific question, so maybe someone can maybe help this guy. So Tony asks, hi guys, I have a content question. I want my editor to be able to edit pages under, say, my cafe page, and not be able to edit the cafe page itself. So underneath the cafe pages are menu pages. So far, I can only allow him to edit everything. So any suggestions? Lee, Bob, Doug, what are we thinking here?
Yeah, no problem. Piece of cake.
Piece of cake. Go on then, Doug.
Right. So for your user, you'll be in the user section, and you will choose perhaps a user type that has a, you know, is appropriate for, you know, writer, editor, that sort of thing. But you will assign a start node where they get to go. So you would start them in the cafe page, and then the list of cafes below it is what you want them to edit. So what you'll then do in the user section, you'll see that there at the bottom is a section for user permissions. Expand that and you'll find your user. And what you want to do is select the specific cafe page and turn off some of their capabilities. So they won't, for instance, be able to publish that page. They still need to be able to see it, but on that specific page, you're overriding their default capabilities. And that's really all there is to it.
Okay. Very, very nice. Lee, Bob, any other suggestions in terms of, is there a more abstract way? Would you do it in code or some obscure?
Oh yeah, I would totally do it in code. No.
Yeah, Bob.
No. I try and stay out of Visual Studio as much as I can, which is very difficult. Yeah.
Who are you guys?
I would have followed the exact instructions that Doug just outlined. I mean, we've used
awesome.
that user settings node many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not doubting the official trainer. So.
Yeah, exactly. No, good stuff, Doug. I think maybe we'll wrap up unless. Oh, hang on, we've just got one more question, and then maybe we'll try and wrap up. So Dan Lister asks, Umbraco is one awesome tool and gets some great love from both the core team and the community. What kind of love would you like to see happen to our Umbraco?
Ooh, hot topic.
Oh, go on. Jump in, Bob.
I think it's probably time for it to evolve. I think a couple years ago we were talking about Search 2.0 that was going to be coming to our Umbraco, and then I don't think that ever materialized, did it?
Probably.
No, a number of things haven't materialized that have been worked on. I think Lee can probably give a better answer, but it's a lot of things have been thought and prototyped, but frankly never finished. We all get back to our regular work and then we stop, which is sad, but it's true, and that's part of the challenge of it not being a project that is really sort of driven for people to help out with.
You're right, Doug. It's almost like it needs to be treated as a separate kind of project with its own like kind of steering committee, I guess. Because the only time the HQ and the core and the MVPs and the people who are meant to represent the community at the retreats, it's the only time we get to talk about it face to face. So whatever decisions are made at the retreats, once the code garden's finished, everyone's like, okay, well, see you soon, and that's where it's left.
See you next year.
Unfortunately, yeah. And so our Umbraco got open sourced. It's up on GitHub. I don't know the barriers to entry. I think they're still quite high for people to get involved with. I don't know how people manage to deal with that. So everything's just become quite stagnant, unfortunately.
And it's probably not overly. I mean, as a resource, it's not overly broken. I mean, I think obviously search would make it better, but I mean, I still find it as a pretty valuable and easy to navigate resource.
I would totally agree with you, Bob. On a regular basis, I find myself trawling the forums. There's an answer, or there's something that I can kind of reply to in terms of help someone else out. But like you say, search is obviously, as the information keeps on growing and more users keep on putting answers into the forum, a better search tool is going to be definitely needed. So yeah, it'd be nice to see if that could get resolved at one point, but like you say, I think the community as a whole need to kind of try and step forward and kind of help out a little bit more. But like you say, Lee, maybe the barrier to entry or entry level kind of is a little bit too high at the minute. Maybe something could be done about that.
Have you guys noticed the community is getting super smart in there too? Like there's hardly any low-hanging fruit questions I can answer anymore.
I struggle too, and I'm meant to be technical. Yeah. I don't know.
Cool. Any other comments about Umbraco in terms of how we could improve it or move it forward, or is there any thoughts or suggestions?
I know that there was one sort of like chain of thought where Lee Messenger developed his forum package dialogue. You know, could that be utilized? I think this is the same kind of thing that I've just mentioned before, is that the barrier to entry or how to drive it forward as a separate project. If we were to use another package that we can bolt onto and add onto, at least when Lee Messenger's package gets updated, you know, we take on all those bug fixes and whatnot. So it's just like it's managed as a separate kind of project that we consume.
What about Facebook at work?
I don't do Facebook.
That would get the same reaction.
No, it's an actual new product. It's not. I mean, it is Facebook, but it's meant for like an organization and/or like a smaller community, I would imagine. I mean, I understand that, you know, the cobbler's kids mentality on this project specifically. It's like it can't get love because there's so much other stuff to do. And I know that the community has waffled back and forth, like, is it, you know, are we dogfooding our own product and we build our .umbraco on Umbraco, or do we use a third-party tool? But it just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Look, the same conversation comes up about Stack Overflow. I'm surprised. I don't know. People have probably mentioned like the guy who made Stack Overflow, Jeff Atwood, has made another product called Discourse, which, you know, is again meant to be for community-based discussions and whatever else. Which would be, you know, it sounds like a perfect fit, but it's all about data ownership and keeping the community. I'm not too sure, you know. It's what's the best option.
Yeah. Well, there's always that argument that Scott Hanselman makes about, you know, blogging, that please own your data. You know, it's your stuff and you're responsible for it. You know, to outsource all that to somebody else would be not necessarily bad, but boy, you'd really want to think about it. As to, you know, is that really the right way to go? You know, because some system will be in ascendancy for a while, but Umbraco, Lord willing, will be around longer than that.
Yes.
You know, I mean, yeah, you know, so that would be something of interest. And then, you know, what the built-in, you know, the hour is a lot more than just the forum. You know, there's events and packages and
package repository is the
package repository and on and on. And so if you say, well, I'm going to separate some of that to what might be a better system for some part of it, well, what do you do with the part that's left over? And then you get the fragmentation, which has always been one of the big arguments and big complaints. Oh, I can't find anything because it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, ours, one of the strengths of ours, in spite of any limitations, is that is the place where you should be able to find everything. And so, yeah, it could certainly do with more love and perhaps treat it as a product. You know, and so it gets its own, you know, champion that you know, wants to oversee that. I mean, that would be someone to stand up in the community and say, I really want to make our, you know, sort of my open source project for, you know, I think everybody would get behind that. Someone needs to step up and say, that's it. And, you know, I'm not that guy, but somebody is. Somebody's that person.
Yeah.
And I think we're all just waiting for that person. But maybe that person doesn't realize that that's an option. Well, it is an option. That's the cool thing about the community, if there's something you want to do, make it known, and odds are you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Okay, so I think let's wrap up here. Unless any of you guys want to add anything else, plug anything else, talk about anything else before we kind of finish up for today. I'll take. Oh, go on, Bob.
I guess I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't mention U.S. Fest coming up here in Orlando.
Nice.
So you said plug, so that reminded me.
Yep.
Of course, the date is eluding me at this exact moment.
Isn't it
Isn't it
March?
like March?
It is
like
early
or
March, but I
7th or
would
8th? Something like that.
hang
So
on.
I'm
It's-
frantically googling.
You'll find it at
March 6th.
usfest.com.
Yes, usfest.com, March 6th, 2015 in Orlando, Florida.
And I'll be
Actually,
there.
I will be maybe there if my boss
Maybe.
send me. Yeah,
From all the way over here, Bob. You can make it. You
I
can
will
do-
probably be there. I do know that they are sending out a call for U.S.-based speakers because apparently the lineup is heavily from outside the country, which is awesome. But we need to get some U.S.-based speakers. I kind of took a back seat this year because I wanted to open it up to some new speakers. So come on, kids, get out there. Talk about something cool you've done. Share with the U.S. community. That's my plug.
Awesome. So it's all in Orlando, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
in Mickey Mouse Land.
It's Magical Kingdom.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, unfortunately I won't be able to make it, but yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a nice little event, and yeah, look forward to see what comes out of it, and hopefully the sessions get recorded or some notes get taken, and we can all learn something new.
Excellent.
Good stuff. Right, I'm going to try and wrap up for one more time, unless any of you, Doug or Lee, want to add anything else?
No, I got to run, do some work on that workbook.
Excellent. Good to talking to you all, guys.
Good talking to you, fellas.
This was great. Thank you, Warren.
No problem.
Good to see you, Lee and Doug.
See you guys.
Excellent.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.